Caleb Jones, Alpha Male 2.0, freedom-focused lifestyle design for men. How you doing? What a great day it is today. I don't care about coronavirus. It's still a great day. I have been doing very well lately. I've been very excited, very busy, working very hard. And today we're going to talk about work. We're going to talk about the financial aspect of your life. The Alpha Male 2.0, as you may or may not be aware, is self-employed. He has his own business, and he follows a very certain or a very particular type of business model called the Alpha 2.0 business model. I will talk about that a little later in the podcast if you are not familiar with it. But before I get to that, first part of this podcast are going to be the three business models. When you start a business, when you start your own business, you will have to start your business under one of these three business models. I've talked about these briefly before in some other contexts, but I'll give you an overview of them here. And it is very important that you start the right type of business for A, your objectives, and B, your personality. And if you're not careful, you may start the wrong type of business. As a matter of fact, I made this error myself when I was a younger entrepreneur. And I didn't do this in my mid-20s. I did this in my later, let's see, was it late 20s? Yes, late 20s, early 30s, I made this error. I started developing a business that was not the kind of business that I wanted. And so it's very important for you to understand three types of business models and to pick the correct one, because very few people understand the difference between these models and the pros and cons of these models. So these three business models are named very complicatedly. They are Model A, Model B, and Model C. Very complicated, I know. They are very different. Matter of fact, Model A and Model B are actually opposites, and Model C is its own weird thing. So I'll go through each one. So Model A, to start with Model A is the solo or near solo self-employed entrepreneur. This is a business owner that has either no employees or no staff, or very little employees or little staff. We're talking, if he has staff, it's under 4 people. If he has real employees, it's under 4 people. At 4 people at the very most. It is mostly, and now I should back up. There are exceptions to everything I say. In the real world with human beings, there are always exceptions to every rule. So if you hunt very hard, you could find, and I've seen them, a Model A business that has like 15 employees. They are out there, but they're highly unusual and they're highly rare. Model A means you are running your own business. Generally speaking, it usually means you are selling your own direct services. So examples of Model A would be a self-employed doctor with his own doctor's office, a self-employed attorney, a self-employed accountant, a self-employed architect, a consultant, and that includes me. I'm a business consultant. It's one of my 3 companies. That is a Model A business. I'm a consultant. You get the idea. Someone who delivers a specific service. He does it himself. He has a lot of help sometimes, but he does it himself, and he is the business. He is the frontline person of that business. The Alpha 2.0 Black Dragon business, you could consider, in a way, a Model A business, because I am the brand. I, Caleb Jones, I'm the guy with this big picture on all the websites, and it's me. It's based on me. That would be opposed to a Model B business, which I'll talk about in a minute. So that's a Model A business. And there are pros and cons to Model A. There are big pros and there are big cons to Model A. Model A is not better or worse than Model B or Model C, and I should be clear about that. Model B, Model C, Model A, none of these are better or worse. They're just very different. That's why you got to pick the right one. Model B is pretty much the opposite of Model A. Model B is a separate asset. Model B is where you have a company. The name of the company has nothing to do with you. What you sell has literally nothing to do with you in terms of your marketing or your branding. And it usually is staff intensive. You have lots of employees. You have lots of overhead. You have lots of infrastructure. You may have an office. You may have a building. You may have inventory. You may have capital goods. You may have equipment. You may have all that good stuff. That's a Model B business. And you run the business as a business manager, as a business owner. Whether or not you own it, you probably do own it. It's probably your business, but you are the president of the company. You're not actually a solo guy performing the services yourself. In other words, if you own a Model B business, you're the president sitting in your office somewhere, and you are not out there in the warehouse loading up the truck to ship your goods. You have a staff. You have a whole infrastructure, whole employee infrastructure to do that for you. There are pros and cons to Model B. Model C. Model C is very different. Model C is a startup. And what I mean by a startup is Model C is a type of business where you come up with this great new revolutionary idea that no one has ever thought of before. And your job is to hire a bunch of employees and pump up the marketplace so that you can find investors. And your job as a Model C business owner is it's not to make money. It's not to gain market share. It's not even to earn a profit. Most Model C businesses do not earn a profit. They're just there to woo investors, or in some cases to go public on the stock market and make $1 billion. That's a Model C business, a very different type of business than Model A and Model B. All three are very different, as you can tell. Now let's go back to Model A. Let's go through the pros and cons as you compare the Model A to the other model types. The advantages of Model A. The advantage of Model A, and it's probably the biggest advantage of them all, is that you can make a lot of money very fast. You can make a six-figure income really quick with Model A. One of the many reasons that I went from age 24 to age 27, I started my first business when I was 24 years old. I went full-time with my first business, started from scratch, didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I was making a six-figure income, over $100,000 a year by the time I was 27. So within 2.5 years of starting my business full-time, I was hitting the big numbers. One of the primary reasons for that was it was a pure Model A business. I was a computer consultant. I was doing consulting, full-time consultant. I was doing it myself. I had help, but I was doing it myself. It was a pure Model A business. So the great thing about Model A is you can make a lot of money really quick. Sometimes like a lot of money really quick. It's much easier to get to the high income faster under Model A. What is the disadvantage of Model A? Well, there's a big one. The disadvantage of Model A is that as a Model A business, your business is not a separate asset from you. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say you're a consultant and let's say you make $1 million a year, and many consultants do. Okay. Let's say you make $1 million a year. You're an individual consultant. Maybe you have a few helpers, but you work out of an office, you work out of your home, you make $1 million a year, and now you want to retire. How do you retire? Can you sell your business? Well, not really. Can you go public on the stock market? No, you really can't. The business is you. So as soon as you stop working, the business goes away. You are the business. When it comes to Model A, you are the business. It's not a separate entity from you. So if you own a Model A business, your job, one of your jobs, and if that's the career you want to follow, your job is to be very good at investing and saving, because if you don't do that, you will never be able to retire. And I personally know many high income, six-figure earners who own Model A businesses who are in their 60s, sometimes 70s, and they can't fucking retire because their business is not an asset and they never focused on investing their money while they were working. Very, very stupid. Happens all the time with Model A business owners. They make a lot of money and they made a lot of money throughout their lifetime, but they never built a business that was separate from them. So that's the downside of Model A. Another downside of Model A is you have to do the work. Often you're involved in selling hours for dollars. Even if you don't literally charge by the hour, you have to do the work. When you stop doing the work, the income stops. So when you take a vacation or you take a month off, are you going to make a lot of money from your Model A business? Not really. There are exceptions to that, but not really, because you're involved in direct services. There are exceptions to that. You could sell ebooks and things like that, like I do my Black Dragon business, so I can kind of set my own schedule. Income comes in while I sleep. That's also true, but you get my drift. Let's switch over to Model B. Model B is the exact opposite, the pros and cons anyway, from a Model A. So the downside to a Model B business, and it's a big downside, is that you will not make a lot of money for a very, very, very long time. If you want to start a company like Amazon, and maybe you know Jeff Bezos' story, you've seen those pictures of Jeff Bezos sitting in this little tiny office all by himself. You want to start a company like Amazon where you're selling products, you want to start your own, lumber company, construction company, grocery store, whatever the hell it is, right? You want to start a business like that, a Model B business, you are going to work very, 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 very hard for many, many years before you make any fucking money. Because when you even start making a little money, that money has to go back into the business to build the business infrastructure. You got to pay for the offices, you got to expand the building, you got to, hire more employees, more capital goods, more equipment, more inventory. So the business is constantly sucking up your income. You may make $20,000 a year for many, many, many years. Matter of fact, you'll get to the point often where many of your employees or most of your employees are making more money than you at the end of the year as a business owner. You'll own the business, which is good. And that brings us to the upside of the Model B business, is that the Model B business, unlike the Model A, is an asset. It is separate from you. So once you build up that grocery store, after busting your ass for a long, 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 long time, or maybe even a chain of grocery stores, whatever you want to do, and you want to retire, or you want to sell the business and go do something else and just cash in and get a few $1,000,000, you can do that. You can sell your business. And, I'm overstating it. I'm oversimplifying it. Maybe you can't sell your business because you're a moron. But if you design the business correctly to run without you, which you can do in a Model B business, you can sell that asset because it's a real asset and leave. Here's an example. My dad started as a Model A guy. He was a mental health counselor. He converted his business to a Model B business. He stopped counseling because he didn't like it. He was a very stressed out alpha male 1.0. So he realized very quickly he didn't want to be a counselor. So he converted over to a Model B business. He rented out a big office or a small office, and eventually he became big. He built up a staff of counselors and office admin staff. And by the time he was in his mid-50s, he was able to basically retire off his business. He walked away and the business just cut him a check once a month. That's the kind of magical thing you can do with a Model B business that you cannot do with a Model A business. Later, he sold the business for a decent hunk of money. He was able to take care of himself and my mom in his retirement, which was very nice. Now, if he had just been a mental health counselor, even a very highly paid mental health counselor, which is not really how that works, but let's say it was, he wouldn't be able to do that. Okay. See the difference? And by the way, that brings up another point. You can convert. You can start as a Model A and convert to a Model B. You can even start as a Model B and convert to a Model A, although that's more difficult. You can do these things. Actually, converting either way is pretty difficult, but that gives you the idea of the differences of the pros and cons between the Model A and the Model B. And there are many more pros and cons, and it gets much more detailed than what I'm just overviewing in this simple podcast. I'm just giving you the overview here. That brings us to our third company, Model C. Well, the advantage to Model C is you don't actually have to make any money. To this day, Netflix doesn't even make any money. It's one of the biggest Model C businesses there are. Model C is very, very different. Model C is about building up hype and building up sexiness as a company to woo investors, angel investors, venture capitalists, or take your business public on the stock market. So the focus of the Model C business is very different. And another advantage of Model C is you don't have to market. You really don't market a Model C business. I mean, you can, but you really don't need to because your goal isn't to make money. Your goal is just to look sexy. Downside of Model C, very, very difficult to make money. Very, very difficult to make any real money. And you'll probably never make any money in a Model C business until you cash out, until you get your big payday, which the odds of that ever happening are very low. So the failure rate of Model C is much higher, even among experienced entrepreneurs. You've probably heard the statistic that 80% of new businesses fail within 3 or 4 years. What you don't know, what most people don't know, is that is actually inverse when you're dealing with experienced entrepreneurs who have already started successful companies. So if you've already started a successful business in your past, and then you start a new company, the success rate is actually 80%. The failure rate's only 20%. If I started a new business tomorrow, even in the middle of this recession, I would make money. It would survive and I would make money. The reason I know that is every single business I have ever started has made money. That's just kind of what I'm good at. But that is not true with the Model C business. Even if you've done successful Model C businesses in the past, or Model A or Model B, it has no indication whatsoever of you being successful with Model C. And that's one of the big downsides of Model C is that success is largely based on luck, at least in my opinion. There are people who may disagree with that opinion, but that's my opinion. Success in Model C is a lot of luck, a lot of who you know, not what you know, that kind of stuff. Whereas Model B and Model A, if you do the right things, you will make money, regardless of your luck. Luck is only a factor if you're stupid and you don't do the right things or sit on your ass and don't market, that kind of stuff. So now the objectives of the Model A, Model B, and Model C businesses are different. The objective for the Model A business is income. That's the objective for Model A, income. How much money do you make? And your goal as a Model A business owner is to jack up your income as high as you can. And back when I was doing nothing but consulting, that was my goal that I constantly obsessed over. How can I jack up my income from my billable work, my project work, my retainer, my hourly rates? Back when I was doing that, which is not a good idea when you're a consultant, but anyway, I did that earlier. How can I jack up my income? So that is the objective of the Model A business is income. How do you increase your income? The objective of the Model B business is profit, which is different than income. See, with the Model B business, you're going to have a lot of expenses, a massive amount of expenses. So income, in other words, gross revenue, is kind of irrelevant when you have a Model B business. Whereas when you have a Model A business, if your gross revenue is $500,000 a year, your income is going to be really close to that because you have very little expenses, very close. If your gross revenue in a Model B business is $500,000 a year, your income might be $20,000 of that. So your objective is profitability, profit margin. How can we take gross revenue pay out these expenses, and end up with a huge hunk of money at the end of the year that I, as the business owner, can take as income and or can show a possible buyer how much money they'll make if they invest by buying in this company. Or how much money can I develop as quasi-residual or actual residual income if I can systematize this Model B business if I want to retire, which you can do with a Model B business. But the objective is not income. It's not billable hours. It's profit, profitability. What is the annual net profit, even gross profit at the end of the year, usually net profit. The objective of the Model C business is either branding or market share, depending on how it works. If you have a Model C business that doesn't make money but gets a lot of market share, like Pinterest, for example, that's very good. If you have a Model C business that is an amazing brand where the owner of the Model C business can go into these groups of investors and just wow these people with how amazing he is. Mark Cuban was good at that. Steve Jobs, to a degree, is the kind of guy who could have been good at that, although it wasn't a Model C business, but you get my point. So the objectives of each one of these companies is very different. Now, why am I giving you these three models? Because you are, and when I say you, I mean your personality and your objectives are geared toward one of these three. Most likely you are geared toward a Model A or Model B business. It is highly unlikely that you are geared toward a Model C business, but I could be wrong. That could be you. The vast majority of you listen to this podcast are going to be Model A guys or Model B guys. Only a small percentage are going to be Model C guys. But in terms of Model A or Model B, you need to pick which one you want in terms of your long-term objectives. So I started as a Model A business, and I started switching to a Model B business about halfway into the business because I wanted to sell the company and I wanted to quote unquote retire in my early 30s. And I realized that was the exact wrong path for me. I didn't want to do that. I instead wanted to stay a model. I realized, and it took me years to realize this, I wanted to stay as a Model A business, but an Alpha 2.0 Model A business, which I'll talk about in a second. The type of Model A business where I could configure it the way I wanted to and work on it when I felt like it and get a very high income from very low hours per week worked. You can also take a Model B business and turn into an Alpha 2.0 business income. You can do both. I will talk about that in a minute. But you'd understand the objectives and the different pros and cons before you choose to start your own business. This is a Model A business where I'm going to provide some kind of direct service or some kind of other direct thing where I can charge a lot of money very quickly and I don't need a lot of help to do it. I can do most of it on my own and jack up the business. And I am the front end of the business. So if you're not sure, by the way, if a business is Model A or Model B, here's a real easy tell. Is the owner of the company the frontline person in that business? Is the owner of the company the brand of that business? So for Alpha Male 2.0, Black Dragon, Caleb Jones, is that a Model A business? Is there a human being who is the front end of that business? Yes, that's me. So that is a very Model A business. Let's compare that to Amazon. Do people who buy toilet paper on Amazon, do they give a shit who Jeff Bezos is? No, they don't care at all. Matter of fact, the vast majority of human beings who order things on Amazon don't even know who Jeff Bezos is, and they never need to know, and the business goes on. That is a quintessential Model B business. If the business can survive and function without the owner actually doing anything or marketing anything himself, that is a Model B business. Now, there are exceptions. Apple Computer was a Model B business, but Steve Jobs was a very big part of that brand, wasn't he? That was a decision he made. He didn't have to do that. So that was optional for him, but it was still a Model B business. But that's one of the ways you can tell the difference. You've got to know which one you want. Do you want to build a business that is an asset that will have some kind of residual income value for you at some point, or that you can sell several years down the road, many years down the road, because it takes a long time for that to happen in a Model B business? If that's your biggest priority, you do not want a Model A business. That would be a terrible idea for you to be an accountant or be an architect or be a consultant even. That would be a really bad idea on your part, okay? Generally speaking, with exceptions. You could tell me that you're going to build an architectural firm and you're not going to do any architecting yourself, but you're going to hire a bunch of architects and build an architectural firm that you're going to manage. Okay, then that'd be a Model B business. That's fine. Do you not give a shit about that? Do you want to make a lot of money right now? If I say, if the concept of you making $22,000 a year for 5 years while you bust your ass for 80 hours a week just rubs you the wrong way and you want money now, fuck that. I want $100,000 a year. I want it right now. Well, then you want a Model A business. You want to be a consultant or a coach or something like that, an attorney, God forbid, or a doctor. I don't like those because they take too much schooling, but that's my opinion. So that's what you need to think through. Now, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the Alpha 2.0 business model, because you can take this business model. If you visualize Model A, Model B, and Model C as squares on a screen, and the Alpha Male 2.0 business model is kind of an umbrella that you can drop over Model A or Model B. You cannot drop it over Model C. As a matter of fact, Model C is the one type of business model I have very little experience in. I'm a business consultant. I've got over 20 years of experience. I've worked with hundreds of companies. So I know Model A and Model B very, very, very well. Very well. Model C is just not one of my areas. So unsurprisingly, the Alpha 2.0 business model, which I designed, doesn't really work with Model C. The priorities are just too different. But you can take the Alpha 2.0 business model and drop it on top of a Model A business or a Model B business. How do you do that? Well, let's go through the parameters of Alpha Male 2.0 business. Number one, it needs to make you at least $75,000 a year, long-term, once the business is up and running. Number two, it needs to be location-independent income. So that means the money comes in regardless of where you are in the world. Can you do that by offering services as a consultant, for example, under a Model A business? Yes. Can you do that selling products like on eBay or Amazon or whatever as a Model B business? Yes, you can. So as long as it's location-independent income, it qualifies for an Alpha 2.0 business. Next requirement is that once the business is up and running, you shouldn't have to work more than 40 hours a week. More than 30 hours a week is optimal. Less than 30 hours a week to maintain that income, I could work much less than that. Can you do that with a Model A business? Yes, if you're careful. If you're selling something very high margin, if you're packaging your time and your offerings very carefully, your service offerings are very high margin, you've outsourced a lot of the grunt work, so you don't have to personally yourself get into a client's company and bust your ass for 50 hours a week to make the big money. You can do that. I've done it. Okay. And certainly selling products is the same thing. Next requirement is that it has to be schedule friendly. You cannot be required to do things at certain times every day or to go to a certain location every day all the time. Can you do that with services in a Model A business? Yes, you can. You can deliver your services remotely, of course. Can you do that with Model B? Yes, it's called drop shipping. Even if you ship the stuff yourself, which I would not recommend, you could make it into an Alpha 2.0 business. That's fine. Alpha 2.0 business focuses on things like selling high margin products or services. You can do that under a Model A model or a Model B model. Either one is fine. But the advantages and disadvantages of Model A and Model B still exist, even if you operate under an Alpha 2.0 business model. For example, let's say you're a coach, you're a professional coach, and you're an Alpha 2.0 business model coach, which means you are coaching a very specific narrow niche, and you have several different offerings for your customers. Maybe you have some info products in there too, but even if you don't, let's say you're a Model A guy, you can make the money very quickly, but that company is still not an asset. It really isn't. Unless you start really cranking the information products, then it can be a partial asset. Maybe. But that disadvantage is still there. You're making a lot of money, but it's not an asset. So if you want to focus on a Model A business, even if it's an Alpha 2.0 business, your objective is to get very good at savings and investing. You better learn that stuff. You better put away a lot of money, because when you want to retire someday, even if you never want to retire, I never want to retire, I love working, but you want to have enough money in the bank as an old person, just in case you can't work, something happens physically and you're not able to work. You don't want no money when you're over the age of 50 or 60. Matter of fact, I have said, and this is not Alpha 2.0, this is just Caleb's opinion, I have said that if you hit the age of 50 and you're not worth at least $1 million in US dollars, you've got problems. You need to have at least $1 million net worth by the time you are 50. By the way, I am not 50 yet, but I had that opinion even back when I was 25 years old and had no money. This is not something new I came up with just because I started making a high income. I've always had that opinion. But anyway, enough of that. The point is that the pros and cons still exist. If you start a Model B Alpha 2.0 business, you won't wait as long to get to the big money and as a non-Alpha 2.0 Model B, but you will still wait longer. The ramp-up time to that $75,000 or beyond $75,000 is going to be a little longer than the guy who chooses Model A. But the advantage you have over that guy is once you have an Alpha 2.0 Model A business, you can sell that thing in a fucking heartbeat. Or even better than selling it, you can just ride off of it. Once you optimize that thing and systematize that thing, you can kick back and not really work and maybe spend a few hours a week checking a few basic numbers and maybe pop it in there when there's emergencies. And other than that, you're good to go. You can retire, or not really retire, but close to retire, or start another business or do something else. Pretty damn nice. Something you can't do with a Model A business. So very important, Model A, Model B, and Model C. Make sure you choose wisely when you start your own business. And if you already have your own business, maybe you have discovered in this podcast that you have the wrong type of business, and maybe you need to do a little conversion. If you need more help with this type of thing, setting up your own Alpha 2.0 business, join smic.com. You will get bazillions of hours of content there. Plus, you can work with me directly on helping you out with these things. Regardless of what you choose, be well. I will talk to you very soon. Have fun. Bye.